Twins, they stuck around for the first few innings, but in the end, they get smoked by Texas, 16-4. That's your final. Simeon Woods-Richardson, tough trip out with his first game back for sure. Full deep dive, though, coming up next on the Minnesota Twins postcast.
This is the Twins postcast, your instant game reaction for the Minnesota Twins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on? Back in the lab, back at it. Another Minnesota Twins postcast right here on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Network, your team every day. Luke Inman at Luke_Spinman, main man CJ Baumgartner with me. He's on X at BombCJ30. Give him a follow on X if you haven't already. Twins expert over at Zone Coverage MN. CJ, we'll get into it all right here in segment one, but just off the top, just off the rip here. Simeon Woods-Richardson, first trip back up in the lineup, been down, in the AAA for the Saints for a while. His stat line today, here's the stat line: 4 2/3, 6 earned, 7 hits, 3 walks, 4 Ks, 98 pitches. Just give me your honest, blunt evaluation of him tonight. And, are you writing this off as just, hey, first trip back, got to be patient, long summer, or just knowing he's going to shoulder the load a little bit more, along with a lot of these other young guys too, right? Are you in the back of your mind getting a little panicky about the starting rotation, just holding up, just staying afloat for the rest of the summer without Pablo Lopez?
I mean, I'd be lying to you if I said I wasn't getting a little concerned, especially because it's not that this is just one start kind of out into the ether. This is Simeon Woods-Richardson got sent down in the middle of a winning streak because they felt like, he just isn't quite as sharp as we want him to be. Now he gets called up out of necessity. First time through the lineup, good. Second time through the lineup, just kept getting hit after hit after hit against a Texas Rangers lineup that's like bottom 4 in the league in runs. And to have an effort like that, it's just one of those where, again, it's one start. You can't shake it off because the Twins are going to have no other choice but to have Simeon Woods-Richardson pitch through this. But definitely in the back of my mind, this is like a yikes kind of moment.
Yeah, didn't feel great, that's for sure. Again, we'll get into it all. Started great. 3 great, shutout innings, right? 3 great shutout innings. Then that 4th and 5th inning came along, and everything just kind of imploded, not just for him, but for the entire Twins team. Lots to get into. Again, Simeon Woods-Richardson back on the mound. Preview of Game 2, kind of the turning point I want to ask you about as well in this one. But first, quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by Game Time. Game Time, download that Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Here's your quick little recap here. Again, Twins Rangers, Game 1, back at home. SWR back on the mound, like I said, his first game back up. And I want to say about a month or so, correct me if I'm wrong, but starts great, 3 scoreless innings, which you love to see. And then the wheels kind of fall off. 4th and 5th inning, 3 runs allowed in back-to-back innings. He gets yanked. Twins had, they were hitting the ball. 12 hits on the night, which you'll take, 10 out of 10 nights, right? Problem was Rangers were just smacking the snot out of the ball, right? Left and right. Those last 5 innings straight, it really felt like too. So 16-4, that's your final. 35-31 now on the year. What was your kind of biggest takeaways, kind of your A topics? I guess what stuck out the most tonight?
It's probably got to be that Simeon Woods-Richardson start, just because of the fact of this is we talked about it on Sunday. This is going to be a really important stretch for this Twins rotation. It's a lot like it was at the end of last year where Joe Ryan was hurt instead of Pablo Lopez, but you have Zebby, you have Festa, and I guess now Simeon Woods-Richardson, you have Festa, you have some of these younger guys that are really going to be important at the back end of the rotation. And not that you need the best starts out of them all the time, but I think, 5 innings of 3-run ball, maybe even 4-run ball for Simeon Woods-Richardson, I think you take, but that extra inning where all of a sudden it's 6-2. And I think when you look at that, it kind of just ended his night for him. He couldn't get through 5 innings. And I think that's the biggest takeaway. You don't need Simeon Woods-Richardson to be perfect, but you need him to be what he was last year. And just, hey, can you get us 5 innings and not blow up, which kind of set things up. Now, again, coming in Topa, Alcala didn't necessarily help things out either coming out of the pen, but it's just one of those things where you are going to need competent, not great, but competent starts out of Simeon Woods-Richardson and David Festa throughout the next couple months. And just, again, not off to the best start. And that's kind of the biggest takeaway, I think, tonight.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
You just did a great job kind of breaking down kind of the meat and potatoes of the game, but I'll ask you officially, just from your eyes today, biggest turning point. I mean, again, it was 3-rip in the fourth. Twins bounce right back, though. They put up 2 and make it a 1-run game. And now you're thinking, going into the 5th inning, this is anyone's game now again. Biggest turning point tonight. When was it and why?
Well, it was almost going to be the fact that the Twins had 2 on, nobody out. Ty France hits that one off the wall. He gets thrown out trying to go to second base. I believe the Twins had runners on second and third. He hits one off the wall. Garcia played a great off the wall. That's not an easy right field to play in target field with that hard wall. And he made a great throw to get France out at second base. So all of a sudden the Twins then had a runner on third with nobody out. Lewis ends up getting an RBI, whatever. And it was almost going to be that because the Twins really felt like they could hang a big crooked number. But I think what the actual turning point is that top half of the 5th inning when the Twins got 2 runs in the bottom of the 4th. It's 3-2. Simeon Woods-Richardson had a bad inning, but hey, if he can turn around and at least, get a 0 that next inning, boom, we got ourselves a ball game. Twins are right in it. And then he comes back around, gets hit around again, and can't get out of the 5th inning. And from that point on, it was just all Rangers. So that turning point was that top half of the 5th. And again, we talked about it on Sunday's show when you send your pitcher out on the mound and he comes out, I believe it was Ryan, comes out after your offense hangs a crooked number, gets a 0, lets your offense go back and hit. And Woods-Richardson just got hit around and kind of seized the momentum that the Twins were starting to build in that ballgame. So that top half of the 5th inning was really the turning point.
Plenty more deep dive. I want to ask you a nerdy stat of the day, as always, but I want to ask you about the bullpen now because it feels like they're going to have a little bit more pressure, a little bit more to load, I feel like, on their shoulders moving forward. But that's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode also brought to us by FanDuel. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and official sportsbook partner of the MLB. Right now, FanDuel is giving you a chance at a huge return, $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you win your first $5 wager. Why I love FanDuel. When you get the hunch in the middle of the game, you can go check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play and so much more, all on the same page where you place your bets. Again, $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you hit your first $5 bet. Go check it all out over at FanDuel.com. Get in some MLB future action while you're there. Twins sitting at plus 500 right now to win the AL Central. It's all sitting up over at FanDuel.com. Again, check it all out over at FanDuel.com and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you win your first $5 wager. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, an official sportsbook partner of the MLB. A little worried to tee up for this, but any nerdy stat of the day from tonight's 16-4 just stomped from the Rangers over the Twins? Any crazy stat? Any fun analytic, I guess, Twins related tonight?
Well, this certainly isn't fun, but Jorge Alcala gave up a home run to a Texas Ranger when he came in relief earlier in this game, and everybody kind of looks back to Jorge Alcala's blow-up appearance in Texas last year where the Twins lost, and then they ended up, I believe they finished the year something along the lines of 11-26 to fall out of playoff contention. Well, let's flash back now to this year where he gave up that home run. And the Twins now have a record of 35-31 on the season. But if you combine that with the record from the last time Jorge Alcala gave up a home run to a Texas Ranger, since the Twins kind of fall off of last season, pair that with even the good parts of this season, the Twins are 46-57 since that point. Not good.
Not great, Bob. Yeah. Let's transition to the bullpen because, I mean, I'll just put it like this. How's the bullpen situation? Rest, stamina, top to bottom? Like, how does that all feel right now with Pablo and Zebby Matthews and company going down all of a sudden, like we saw tonight? Now, you can't always rely, I guess, on these starters chewing up 6+ innings on a nightly basis, more times than not, like we kind of got used to. So in turn, obviously then, more pressure on the bullpen now, which obviously a very strong unit, right? But how's the platoon back there right now? Like what kind of shape is everyone in? Just kind of big picture.
Well, and I think too, especially the Twins definitely like to use their high leverage guys. You see a lot of Duran, you see a lot of Jax, you see a lot of Varland, you see a lot of those guys. But it's really going to be some of those other guys in the bullpen because, like you said, just with the fact of Simeon Woods-Richardson and David Festa, you are going to ask more of the bullpen, which means more of all of them because you're not going to bring in Griffin Jax in the 6th inning in most situations. So you're going to need to find a guy you trust to come in and pitch the 6th inning, the 7th inning, some of these things that, in multiple nights a week that you're necessarily not going to have to you're not going to have the best confidence in, because the Twins had the off day yesterday. That kind of resets the bullpen going into the week. So everybody feels good. And tonight, the only solace you can take is the fact that, hey, we only used Alcala and Topa, and Jonah Bride came in and pitched the last inning. Like, we didn't necessarily have to use the big hitters in the bullpen, so they get kind of another day of rest in that way. But overall, Jorge Alcala has kind of been the biggest thing. I know everybody was waiting, myself included, for like 5 years in a row for him to take that next step. But honestly, his time in the Twins uniform might be pretty close to done. He has an ERA over 7, a few independent pitching, which is trying to balance out luck, that would have his ERA still sitting above 4. And if you look at the leverage index and the situations the Twins use him in, they put him in pretty low leverage situations this year, one of the lowest of his career, and he still has an ERA of over 7. And after tonight, that number is going up. It's as much as I hate to admit it, it might be time to stick a fork in Jorge Alcala's Twins career.
Well, I guess I could transition into, if he's out, who's in, but I did plant some seeds last show with you for this. Give me one trade scenario or possibility, right, just off the top of your head, that we can kind of start just drawing up, just start to get some sort of foundation of maybe a guy or two that they'd be willing to part with, and kind of where your head's at as far as like trying to look in the GM kind of lens, I suppose, for the Twins. Because as you said 2 nights ago on our last postcast show, it really kind of all depends on, the GM in the front office and how aggressive they want to get.
Right, exactly. And it's going to depend on ownership and how that transition looks. And even if the Poleheads haven't announced a new owner yet, are they going to open up the pocketbooks as new owners are wanting to come in? There's a whole situation with that. But overall, I think with the Twins, I think, the lineup has their issues, and the lineup has had their kind of foibles all year. You can maybe look at upgrading first base over Ty France. You can look at a couple other things, but really it's going to come down to the pitching staff, and the Twins are going to have to figure out how to add another arm to this starting rotation that can legitimately play, and kind of scouring some of the names. There's necessarily not one name that certainly comes to mind, but you definitely got to look at some of those teams that necessarily aren't having the best start. Do you look at in Atlanta Braves? Do you look at a team that would want to part with them? Do you look at some of these other guys? Baltimore isn't having the year they wanted, although it's been a lot of reasons because of their pitching staff. But do you kind of go in some of those areas to try and poach a guy? Because right now you just need to find any starting pitcher. You're probably not going to get a bona fide number 1 ace, but you're going to need to get maybe just a 3 starter that you can trust to pitch you 5 innings. And that is probably the most realistic trade situation. But overall, in the deadline, the last couple of years, the Twins have stood pat and not really made any moves outside of acquiring like a very, very low leverage minor leaguer or like quadruple A player. So the Twins are going to have to figure out internally how to fix some of these things.
Yeah. And if I was a betting man, knowing the Poleheads are likely on the way out, I don't imagine they're going to want to start opening up the checkbook for the next guy, right? Waiting in the wings. But we'll see. I mean, we've been proven wrong before. Can I have one name, just one possible name just to jot down or think about that? Maybe in a couple of weeks, you look at the ESPN possible trade scenarios, and there just ends up being the same kind of 4 or 5 names from the teams that are struggling, as you mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, one name to keep in mind here, and I got to double check to make sure I have everything kind of layered up, because I know you could look at certainly some of the pitchers from now. I lost the spot. I had it right.
Could be Baltimore, but keep an eye on teams that are struggling. Baltimore and Atlanta are the teams after this show I'm gonna start doing some deep diving on and seeing if those are, again, a team that could part ways with somebody in that rotation, knowing that they're probably not in a reset year by any means, knowing those 2 franchises, but definitely in the off year and trying to maybe restockpile a little bit for 2026 and beyond, for sure. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Don't go anywhere. Preview game 2, final segment coming up. David Fest on the mound. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by Prize Picks. Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 10 million members to date. And for me, my money is just the easiest, most exciting way to get in on all the action while you watch your favorite sports and you watch your favorite players. So simple, too. All you got to do, you pick more or less on 2 or more players' stats. You watch the winnings roll in. Could be strikeouts, RBIs, home runs, stolen bases, you name it, they got it. Take your pick on more or less. Add them to your Prize Picks entry today. Plus, they now offer Apple Pay, quick and easy deposits into your account all season long. Download the Prize Picks app. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 instantly with any $5 wager. All right, just real quick, 60 seconds, game 2 tomorrow. How do they bounce back? You got David Festa on the mound, and like I said, 12 hits tonight. It's not like the offense just stunk or anything. What's just the number one thing you're thinking about or looking at as the Twins keep trying to adjust to this new starting rotation?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is, like we talked about with Simeon Woods-Richardson, you just want to get 5 clean innings out of a guy. It doesn't need to be perfect. He doesn't need to pitch 5 shutouts, but can you basically pitch 5 innings and keep the team somewhat in the ball game? I know a quality start is by definition 6 innings pitched. We're allowing 3 earned runs or less. Okay. And maybe that kind of needs to be like revised a little bit to like 5 innings with less than 3 runs. I mean, that's pretty much the standard. Can you get through that point? Because typically after that, the Twins bullpen should be able to hunker down most nights. So as long as you can do that, you're in a good spot. Bats, I felt like, have been hitting well. It's mainly just that Twins pitching being able to hold things down in the early part of the game.
Yeah, that seems like the new A topic around here. Definitely until proven otherwise, that's for sure. Twins drop game 1, 16-4. That's your final tonight. Yeah, 16-4. Simeon Woods-Richardson, tough first trip back on the mound. 35-31 now on the year, 4 games above 500. Huge shout out to all you guys, though, all the everydayers out there that always make us your first listen. All you guys coming in the chat with us from game to game. Make sure you like and subscribe. Go check out all CJ's work on X at BombCJ30, plus all the work he's always putting up over at Zone Coverage, MN.com as well. Luke Inman on X at Luke_spin. We got game 2 tomorrow night, 6:40 first pitch again. We got David Festa on the mound. We'll catch you right here, same time, same place. But until then, signing out.